Hi everyone, I'm Trent Hidlay along with my partner Hayden Hidlay, and the deep earth hazard that we chose was the Great Kanto earthquake that took place on September 1st, 1923 at 11:58 a.m. in Tokyo, Japan, in neighboring port Yokohama. As you can see in our picture, Japan is surrounded by three major tectonic plates: the Pacific Plate, the Philippine Sea Plate, and the Eurasian Plate. Because of its geological location around these plates, it is susceptible to earthquakes. On September 1st, the subduction zone that was created by the ocean-continental convergent plate boundaries between the Philippine Sea Plate and the Eurasian Plate caused the Great Kanto earthquake. The epicenter of this earthquake was located in Sagami Bay off Yokohama.
The earthquake itself only lasted a few moments, but the ongoing effects of this earthquake was what created so much damage in Tokyo. First off, the earthquake killed many people just from the poor infrastructure in Tokyo at the time. The buildings collapsed on top of each other and trapped a lot of the people inside of them. Next was the tsunami that formed just from the earthquake. So the earthquake formed out in the ocean, and the ocean floor violently reconstructed to form a 40-foot tsunami, and these waves crashed on the villages and killed many people as well. Due to this earthquake, there was actually a landslide involved, and there was an instance where there was a train that was stuck on the tracks over top of a ravine, and so the landslide slid right into the train and knocked it into the ravine and killing all people on board. Next, which was very unique, was a fire twister, and the local people called it the dragon twist. And this formed because the earthquake formed right in the middle of the day when people were making lunch, and so a lot of the ovens overturned during the earthquake and caught a lot of the buildings on fire. And so the fire actually formed a type of tornado almost, and ended up killing 45,000 people just because of the flames.
The damages to the landscape and surrounding environment of Tokyo and Yokohama were devastating. As we stated earlier, the ocean floor was reconstructed, which caused the tsunami to occur. Vegetation was also destroyed from extreme flooding from the tsunami, and also wildlife was also destroyed from the tsunami and the fires. The effects of the earthquake were local and regional and caused the country to fundamentally change. Essentially, the entire environmental landscape was changed. The two main Earth systems that were involved in the earthquake were the lithosphere and the hydrosphere. These two Earth systems were primarily involved in the mass destruction that covered the land and water surrounding the cities.
This 7.9 Richter scale earthquake claimed approximately 140,000 lives. 45% of Tokyo was completely burnt to the ground due to the fires resulting from the earthquake. Over 90% of the buildings in Yokohama collapsed during the earthquake, along with the houses, 7,000 factories, and many hospitals and schools. The aftermath of the earthquake created a political revolution in Japan. Before the disaster, Japan was accepting of Western people and ideas. After the disaster, the government turned to the military for structure in trying times. This formed the imperialistic and isolated Japan that it is most well known for during the 1930s and 1940s. Upon completion of the earthquake and fires, many Japanese blamed the fires and crimes during the events, and they blamed them on Koreans living in Tokyo. In result of this, nearly 6,000 Koreans were executed by the Japanese.
A few quick facts that we learned from our research on this earthquake was that the earthquake lasted approximately 14 seconds. At the time, it was considered the worst natural disaster to ever strike Japan, and a few decades later, the United States took advantage of these weak spots in Japan and performed a military attack. Lessons that Japan learned as a result of this earthquake: they realized that urban planning was now needed when reconstructing the city. Before the earthquake, most buildings were made of wood, and the streets were all very narrow, connecting the city. After the disaster, Japan set out to educate the population and show them safe and effective practices when dealing with an earthquake. They learned that the aftermath took more lives than the actual disaster, so they started to create surpluses of essential materials like food and water so if another earthquake struck, they would have supplies for the aftermath.
These are the sources that we contrived our information from, and we hope you all enjoyed our presentation.